Yeah.
And I recognized that there was a pattern in the way in which they spoke to us. Like I literally could look at their ads and like see that there was an organization, and I wrote it down. And even back then, I called it the Golden Circle. And when I had my own business, I would use it was just basically in PowerPoints to explain why some marketing worked and some marketing didn't. It wasn't
when you were first talking to a client.
It wasn't a big idea
Yeah.
yet. It was simply an organizing principle, how to organize information for marketing. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else.
So was it you then that decided, I want to share this with as many people as I can, regardless of clients from my advertising agency? Or were people reaching out and saying, hey, can you talk about this outside of your work?
It's like so many of these stories, it sounds like, you know, I was a genius, but it was much more evolutionary than revolutionary, much more organic. I was fascinated by this idea, and it had a profound impact on my own life and my own view of the world. And like anybody, when you read a great book or you see a great movie, you tell your friends to read it or see it. And so I would talk about this thing obsessively because it was you know, it's like when you find a new song and all you do is listen to that one song.
Oh, I've been there.
It's the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's just this obsession for this one thing. The difference is it didn't lose steam, and my friends were taking it to heart and were making crazy life changes. Like I had friends quitting jobs and starting businesses once they heard this thing.
Because of a talk you had with them at a bar.
Yeah, and
wow.
and I figured out how to help people find their why, and and my friends would invite me to their homes to share it with their friends. So it all started with me standing in somebody's living room in New York City, like, you know, with one of those prepared platters that you get at the supermarket with the celery and the carrots, and, you know, like one of those in the middle of the room. And I would talk about the thing called the why, and people would ask me to help them find their one. I used to do it for $100 on the side. It was extremely organic. You know, I talked about it everywhere I went. People would tell people about it. People would ask me to come talk about it. And somebody invited me to come give a talk to a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I said yes.
Wow. Yeah. So what happened when you gave that first talk?
Yeah.
Your first real talk.
Yeah.
Were you like, oh my, maybe this shouldn't just be the side gig?
I didn't know that being a speaker was actually a thing, weirdly.
So you chose, your route was writing, right?
I fell into it. I'd never aspired to be a writer. I had never really written anything of particular length. But I had this idea a bunch of years ago, which even that was something I discovered. It came in a period of my life where I had a lot of pain. I'd fell out of love with my work. I lost my passion. And it was a really dark time. And superficially, everything was good. And so I pretended that I was happy. All of my energy went into pretending that I was happier, more successful, and more in control than I actually felt.
You knew you were pretending.
Oh, yeah. And it was a hard way to live. And it wasn't until a very close friend of mine came to me concerned that I wasn't myself, did that give me the courage to find a solution. And the solution that I found was this naturally occurring biological pattern. Every single one of us knows what we do. I mean, you can tell me what you do, I can tell you what I do. Some of us know how we do it, the things that make us stand out or distinguish us from our competition. But very, very few people can clearly articulate why they do what they do. That purpose, cause, or belief that underlies our work when we are passionate. And I didn't know why I did what I did. And so I set out to answer that question. Upon answering that question, it restored my passion to levels I'd never experienced before. And people just kept inviting me to talk about this thing. And at some point, somebody said, you should write about it. I said, okay. Somebody introduced me to Adrian Zackheim, who's the god of business publishing, the original publisher from Good to Great. I had a 29-minute meeting with Adrian, and 3 days later, he offered me a book deal. And so I wrote because I had a contract that told me I had to write, so that's how I wrote a book.
He gave you 30 minutes and you used 29.
He gave me 30 minutes, I used 29.
So the idea is to be fulfilled by your work?
I think fulfillment is a right and not a privilege. It's so common that we go out for dinner with our friends and somebody at the dinner table will say, I love my job, and the rest of us go, oh, you're so lucky, like they won some sort of lottery. I think feeling fulfilled and loving our work is a right and not a privilege, that we should demand it of our leaders, that they provide an environment that we enjoy coming to work to every day. And if we are the leaders, that we should be providing those environments.
Can this apply to an assembly line worker at General Motors?
Oh, 100%.
Puts a car together all day.
It has
In
nothing
fact, all he does is do the wrenching on the tires.
I can give you lists of companies. Barry Waymiller, based in St. Louis, is a multi-billion-dollar manufacturing company, where I've walked the factory floor, and I meet people who glow with love for their job and their fellow colleagues. There's a company called the Luck Companies, based in Dulles, and they own quarries. So these guys smash rocks. I mean, that's what they do. They put a stick of dynamite in a hole, it blows big boulders, and they smash them into little rocks. That's their job. And I sat down with them, and I said, so tell me, what makes working at Luck so wonderful? And one of them, every stereotype that you have in your head is, that's exactly what he looked like, this big guy with a baseball cap and dip, and he looks at me, he goes, well, I've really learned to connect with my feelings and express, to both my colleagues and my family how I feel. And it was amazing. And they love their work. And I know plenty of people in white-collar jobs and bankers and doctors who hate their jobs and take pills to get through the day. So, let us not judge whether somebody's happy or unfulfilled based on what they do, but it's...
Oprah.
I think we all love Oprah.
Why? Why do we all love Oprah?
We all love Oprah because Oprah, again, in good leadership fashion, is inclusive and gives us something to belong to. She sets clear vision and optimism, and she encourages us to take care of ourselves and each other. It's not about following her, but rather how she can clear a path that we can take.